Hey, greetings everyone from our home to yours. I hope that this finds you safe and well. Today, our scripture passages come from Matthew chapter 23, verses 1 through 36. This is a very long passage, and I was tempted to break these up into multiple sets, but I think that the whole context was important. And I think that us talking about all 36 verses in one concept is probably better than splitting them up bit by bit. So the context for today is that Jesus starts speaking to the crowds and to his disciples, and he tells them to listen to and do what the Pharisees and the scribes told them, but don't do what they do or how they do it, because they do not practice what they preach. And then Jesus goes on to call them hypocrites, and he goes on and says some things about them that are pretty bad, and he goes into the woes. There's 8 of them. And he calls them out and describes the religious leaders in ways, saying things like they're snakes, they're whitewashed tombs, they're bulls that are clean on the outside but nasty on the inside. And these things sound terrible. I mean, it is terrible. Even though how he describes them sounds terrible, hypocrisy is just as alive today as it was then. And it is still a very difficult problem to fix. And that's because the church does not understand what hypocrisy really is and who hypocrites really are, which is really sad because Jesus tells us here in these passages, and you would think that it would be easy for us to understand so that it's clear who hypocrites are, but we just can't make the connection and we still mess it up today. You see, a hypocrite is an actor. It's someone who is acting a part. But how the church defines a hypocrite is a Christian who doesn't follow what the Bible or what their pastor tells them to do. They would say that a hypocrite is someone who says they believe in something like tithing but does not tithe. But that's not a hypocrite according to Jesus. So what I'm going to tell you now is kind of controversial, and it shouldn't be. It's so controversial that when I usually tell people, other pastors and theologians, they say, yeah, okay, but they just can't really get past the part because they've been so ingrained in the wrong definition. It's been so part of their lives and part of our Christian culture for so many years that they just can't get past it, even though logically they may agree, but in their heart, it's hard to take because it's so different from the way that we've been taught. You see, a hypocrite is not a Christian who sins, or doesn't walk the walk and only talks the talk, as some euphemisms describe it. Actually, it's the opposite. A hypocrite is someone who acts like a Christian, but isn't. Or better yet, a hypocrite is not a saint who acts like a sinner or a Christian who sins. A hypocrite is a sinner who acts like a saint. A hypocrite is someone who comes to church for whatever reason, and their heart is not God's. Their life is not God's. They are not followers of Jesus. They probably don't even care about who Jesus is, but they are there for some reason. And I don't know whether it's the food or the fellowship, but for some reason they go because I guess it makes them feel better, or they get this sense of belonging. Or they're there for more nefarious reasons, kind of like the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes of Jesus' day. And I don't know why someone would do that, but they do. I remember years ago, one of the things that as a pastor, we were getting warnings from our denomination about is people coming in to do multi-level marketing. They would come in and try and get their hands on the church directory, with all the telephones and addresses, and they would use that to build their multi-level marketing business. And I'm not talking about someone who goes to church because they want to learn and they want to believe, and they're having problems and they just have doubt and their life is still a mess and it doesn't seem like they can just, make that commitment. I'm not talking about those people who are searching and wanting to find God and Jesus and just don't seem to be able to for whatever reason. I'm talking about someone who has no plan to become a Christian and knows it, but acts like one in order to get what they want. And those are the ones that Jesus calls the snakes, the whitewashed tombs, rotten on the inside and worse. So do you see the difference? And I think the good news in this is that if you're wondering if you're a hypocrite or not, or if you're worried about being a hypocrite or not, you probably aren't, right? Because hypocrites know who they are, because they know that they are putting on a show on purpose. So may you go this week knowing who hypocrites really are. And be careful of them, because they're snakes. Grace and peace to you. God bless you. Have a great week.